Well, Nintendo certainly ruffled a few feathers this week, didn't they? It's the weekend, as of recording, it's the weekend, it's Saturday now, so we're quite far removed from the Switch 2 showcase that occurred on Wednesday. And I just wanted to talk a bit about it. I've seen a lot of discourse online. The title that I'm using is not clickbait. I genuinely do think that the Switch 2 showcase is a net negative for gaming in general. And most people will be coming here and thinking, oh, it's a price. You're going to talk about the price. And yeah, the prices are high. No one's arguing the prices aren't high, but there's something far more sinister behind it that brings me back to like the PS3 days, that I think everyone is focusing so much on the price that they've skipped the main thing that you should be worrying about these types of showcases in general and the way that it was presented. So what I'll do is, because I hate being negative all of the time, so rather than this being a entirely negative video, I'm going to run through the showcase. I'm going to talk about the good, about the bad, and then at the end, I'll run through what I believe was quite insidious about the way that this showcase was presented and the way that it was given to us, and the connotations of that and what it could mean for the industry moving forward. I'll put in timestamps so you can essentially just skip ahead to the bit that you want to see. If you just want to talk about how great the Switch is, that'll be the good bit. If you want to just sort of talk about how bad the Switch is and how much you hate Nintendo and how tariffs are ruining everything, that'll be in the bad bit. And then if you want to just see what you clicked for the title, just skip ahead to the end. Doesn't bother me in the slightest. Or if you want to just widen your horizons and get more opinions on things, feel free. And we'll have a little mosey on through. Hopefully this video won't be long. I have no doubt future me will put some sort of sarcastic comment somewhere along here that will basically say, yes, it was. Let's start with the good things, the games. Oh my days, the games. So the amount of times that people have talked about the Xbox Series X, PS5, what games do they have? If you think PS5 exclusive games, nowhere else, you're looking like Returnal. And that's about it. I'm sure that there's more, but basically Returnal. Everything else was available on the PS4 because they were so scared of losing out the market share. Some of these are on the original Switch. So if you look at like Metroid Prime 4, that's available on the original Switch as well as the Switch 2. But then you've got other games like Mario Kart World. That looks unbelievable for a Mario Kart game. It's basically doubled how many people you can have in one race at any one time, but also giving you like an open world. And I'm not sure what the open world's going to be like. It could be nothing. It could genuinely just be empty, open plains with a little box in the middle, and you drive through the box and you get a banana and you can throw it at nothing because you're in the middle of an empty open world. We'll have to see. I mean, Nintendo don't have the greatest track record with open worlds, but I would like to see where they go with it, and it genuinely does look like a fun game with loads of fun different skins, and it's definitely not worth the price that they are asking for, but I think it looks great. You've also got Drag X Drive or Drag Cross Drive. Basically, it's their sort of, I don't want to say it's their gimmick game, but it's a bit like ARMS, where it's got the two, because the Joy-Cons can be used as mice. Basically, they're sort of showing what you can do, where you can drag the mice across the desk. I'm doing this, you can't see what I'm doing. I'm dragging mice across desks. And they're just trying to showcase a way that they can drag the mice along the desk and how they can control things using the mouse control feature, because essentially that's the only real innovative thing they've added to the Switch 2 is the mouse feature, which I'm not against. I think it's great, especially if you look at like Metroid Prime 4, shooting with a mouse. Everyone says shooting with a mouse is superior to shooting with a controller. I completely agree. It is. It's the most accurate way to shoot, but it's not for everyone. So what you might find is people don't want to use it as a mouse, but this game is specifically tailored around that. And it also gives a bit of a highlight towards people with disabilities. I mean, the entire thing is about wheelchair basketball. I don't know if it has like a specific name. Someone said to me murder ball, but I don't know if that's that might be wheelchair rugby. I'm not sure. But basically I think it's highlighting and giving an actual game to people with disabilities. And I think it's really good representation, honestly. I don't think it's like a cash grab or a shill or anything. I think it's genuinely just a nice little game. Then, of course, we got the new 3D Donkey Kong, which technically I called the day of. I said, pigs might fly if they release a 3D Donkey Kong. But they did. They actually released a 3D Donkey Kong. And I thought that was pretty good. It looked really good the way you could destroy everything. You could just punch into the ground and dig down. Stuff like that. Levolution. I love stuff like that from the Battlefield days. And making a Donkey Kong game out of that just looks unreal. And if you look at it, it actually looks like they've just took Donkey Kong and put him in Mario Odyssey's engine. Everything has that look to it, that Mario Odyssey look. The purples, the golds, all of it looks very Mario Odyssey. So I think what they've done is they've just repurposed the engine and added stuff to it, which is great for Mario Odyssey 2 or whatever comes next out of Mario for 3D. I'm more looking forward to that than Donkey Kong. I've never really been a Donkey Kong person, but I know a lot of people are like die-hard Kongers. Kongers? I'm leaving it in, Kongers. I think that there's a lot of people that are die-hard for Donkey Kong. They've been waiting for ages for stuff like that. So I'm glad that they've finally got a game. It is a game that I would get, and it is a game that I would play because it looks cool. Yeah. Lastly, on first party, I've got Hyrule Warriors 2. I can't remember the actual name of it. I think it's Age of Calamity or something like that. And basically, it is Tears of the Kingdom, Hyrule Warriors style. I've always wanted to play Hyrule Warriors, but I've never actually played it. I don't know what it is about it that puts me off. I think it's because I'm not a massive Dynasty Warriors fan. I did actually do a demo dump on the most recent Dynasty Warriors, and I wasn't a big fan of it, if I'm being completely honest. I like the idea of you just sort of barreling hundreds of troops out the way, but at a certain point, it just gets boring for me. So I don't know what they're going to add in, but it looks really good. It looks cool enough. I'm all for more Hyrule Warriors because it's the only game in the Dynasty Warriors like Koei Tecmo landscape that I would consider playing. And I didn't fancy parting with the Nintendo tax to get the original one. From the looks of it, this one's going to be even more expensive, so I don't think I'm going to bother with this one either. But, it's there. It's good. I like the fact that there's a lot of first-party stuff coming forward, even though not all of it's out for release day. Third-party support was out in full force this time. I think it was great to see just how many different third-party studios were around for this. So not only was it third-party, but it's third-party more recent. So on the old Switch, you had like the original Doom 2016, like 5 years later, and they're like, oh, look, we can run Doom. It's like, all right, great. Love that. Now they've got stuff like Street Fighter. They've got stuff like Split Fiction. Things that have just released, things that have released within the past year, and they've got it up and running perfectly fine on the Switch. Well, according to the trailer, perfectly fine. We'll have to see what the actual thing looks like when it comes out. But yeah, it genuinely does look good, and I like the fact that a lot of people are supporting it, and it shows that perhaps the Nintendo machine is going to become like it was in the N64 days, in the GameCube days, where if there was a third-party release, it came out on the Switch. That's what I'm hoping for anyway, because there's a lot of people who their predominant machine is the Switch, so them getting the Switch 2 and this much third-party support, it looks great. I genuinely believe that this is a step forward in the right direction. I hope that these people are happy because they get everything. The only thing that I really wanted was to see something like Doom the Dark Ages running on it. Something brand new that isn't out yet. They did say that the James Bond game, of all games, is going to be coming to the Switch too, and it's like, right, cool. But that's like, it doesn't even have a name yet. It's still Project 007 or whatever. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what it comes out as. And I hope that moving forward, there's a lot of third-party studios and things come out day and date on Switch 2, rather than it being like 6 months, a year later, we'll get a port, and the port isn't very good. The way that the Switch works now, where it's like years for a port, and the port isn't very good. Hopefully that just doesn't happen this time. The only game I have to call out is the From Software game. And this for me... So my wife will attest to this. I almost had a meltdown when that trailer first started playing. That trailer knew what it was doing. It started immediately talking about blood. It started showing me Gothic towers. Even when the train came on, I was like, "This is all me. I'm down. I'm great. I'm loving this." You had all different characters doing different moves, and I was like, oh, cool. So you can do different move sets. The weapons have different move sets, that sort of thing. Then you have the comical Tin Man doing his fart jetpack across the sky. I love that. I love the fact that it's been turned into a GIF already. Of course, it's called the Duskbloods, and this is sort of endemic of what I want to talk about later, but the trailer looked unreal. I was fully down for every single part of that trailer. And then when I went and had a look online after the trailer, my hype went from 100 to 0. I'm getting old, okay? I'm an old man. I'm grumpy. I've literally got a bad back as we speak. I do not have the time or the want to play multiplayer games anymore, I'm afraid. It's a me problem. Completely a me problem. I'll play co-op stuff like Helldivers and Space Marine 2, things like that. But when it comes to PvP, I'm just not there anymore. And when someone invades my world on a Souls game, I'm like, oh, can you go away? Because I know it's some naked guy with a katana that's going to kill me in 3 hits. And I just want it over with, especially when I'm like so close to a bonfire. And it's like, just kill me. Just get it over with. I'm done. Just get out of my game. And I went from I am going to buy a Switch 2 as soon as this From Software game comes out to I am not buying a Switch 2. Genuinely, I'm one of those people who love a From Software game. My favorite game is Bloodborne. You can see I am wearing a Bloodborne top. I have a Bloodborne Day of the Dead tattoo upon my arm. I love Bloodborne so much. And it's such a shame that never escaped the PlayStation in any way, shape, or form. It never got an update. It never got a frame rate update. People shout to the high heavens about how it doesn't work on PC. People have had to make their own PC version, all that sort of stuff. And I just wish that Bloodborne escaped the PlayStation, you know? They could have did a remaster, a patch, anything. They could have fixed it and they never did because of legal issues. And I have a funny feeling that with the Duskbloods, this is going to be the exact same thing again. I'm not entirely sure that the player base that you are after for a From Software game, coupled with leaving it exclusively on the Switch, is a good idea. If you think about the Switch's network infrastructure, I do not think it's going to run very well at all. And I think the player base is going to be too small for you to effectively do that on the Switch. I think it would be a bad idea to do it, but they're going to go ahead and do it anyway. So we'll have to see. But for me, I prefer my single solo Souls games. That's just a personal opinion. There might be some people out there who are absolutely dying for it. People who are dying for Night Rain might look at the Duskbloods and be like, yes. But the way that this was set up as, this is clearly Bloodborne. This is 100% Bloodborne. And then when we got to the end and we got the title, the Duskbloods, I was like, okay, well, maybe it's just like a Bloodborne successor, like a spiritual successor. They wanted to make something different with new stuff, with like half futuristic type worlds. It looks great. You know, I'm all about it. I love the traversal that they've learned from Night Rain and all that sort of stuff. And then they come out and they're like, oh, by the way, it's multiplayer with 8 people. And it absolutely killed it for me. So people might love it. Absolute shame for me. Was the highlight of the showcase until I looked online after. And that's a theme that you will come to find perpetuates throughout this video. All right, so I've spent enough time on ranting about the Duskbloods. Let's get on to the hardware itself. So it is significantly upgraded. The screen is significantly bigger. It's something like nearly 2 inches bigger. Oi, oi. Why am I like this? It now has magnetic grips to put the Joy-Cons on. So they snap on and then you press a button and they snap off, which is great. They also have analog sticks, which hopefully do not drift at all. I would have thought that this is where they put the majority of focus on R&Ds, making sure that those sticks don't drift this time. It's capable of 1080p, 120 FPS, which is insane if that works on third party as well as first party. But even if it's just first party, 120 frames on a handheld, I mean, come on, that's impressive. You've got to admit, even if you hate Nintendo, that's impressive for them to get 1080p, 120 FPS on a handheld. Really good. When it's docked, you can get it up to 4K and 60 FPS, which, let's be honest, Xbox, PlayStation, they currently can't meet that. They really can't. They can't meet 60 frames. They can't meet 4K. They advertise it, and maybe certain first-party games refined to within an inch of their life can. But the majority of games, and especially third-party games, they do not hit 4K 60 ever. They really don't. Some games will hit 60 consistently, but they'll not make 4K. So it's just something to think about. If these specs are genuinely true, and it's true of third-party as well as first-party, think about that when you're thinking about the price, because I do want to talk about the price in a bit, and I think that is like the key thing to think about when you're looking at price. It also has nearly 10 times the storage, the internal storage. So I remember when I was buying the original Switch, people told me straight away, make sure you get an SD card with it. If you don't get an SD card with it, you'll have 2 games on and then you'll have to delete something else. So I had to splash out for what was then a fairly expensive SD card, but it took any SD card really. But it was still fairly expensive when you were already dropping, what was it, like 250 quid on the actual machine. It was quite a bit, so I'm glad that the internal storage is significantly bigger. Here's hoping the games haven't ballooned to a huge size as well. As I said before, the Joy-Cons can be used as like a mouse, which is cool. I like the fact that you can use them in different ways. So rather than it being just like a motion peripheral and you're playing, the Rock Band or whatever. The Rock Band. How old am I? The Rock Band. But yeah, so you can use it as a mouse. I think it's great. Means that first-person shooters might actually have the edge on Switch 2. If you think about it, if you can run it at 120 frames using a mouse to shoot, you might as well be on PC. The only thing that would let you down would be like the netcode. So I actually think that it's a pretty good deal, really. Personally, I'm happy. I'm happy that it's an iteration and not a wholesale redo. I think what they had with the Switch was perfect. It works for kids, it works for adults. You can play it in multiple different ways. They've spent a lot of time iterating on what people's feedback has been. So they've got like the extra stands, the extra USB-C charge ports, all that sort of stuff to make sure that everyone's happy with what version of machine they have, and every single which way they play it, it is perfect for that format. So they've iterated it to a fine point, and the one thing everyone complained about was we don't get the fidelity and the frames that we get on other consoles on the Switch. And what they've done is they've just completely revamped everything about it and made sure that it is the perfect machine. And I mean, I'm not sitting here saying it's perfect because I'm a PC player anyway. I'm always on PC. I'll play PC, I'll play PlayStation, I'll play Switch, but I'll only play PlayStation and Switch for the exclusives. Everything else, I'm on PC. So this 120 frames, 4K stuff, I'm already there. I'm not worried about that. But I want people to just have the full amount of information to make a decision on what they want to buy. And I don't like the fact that everyone has, just because of the price, everyone's kind of jumped on the Switch and said, oh, it's terrible, it's terrible. It's really not. The amount of stuff that they've done is fairly impressive, to be honest. They've done so many different quality of life features. I think it's done well. They've also made the decision to create game chat finally, or party chat finally. So this is where we're going to get on to the negatives, I'm afraid. Nintendo's answer to game chat. Everyone complained that they were having to go through a game chat app on their phone to be able to talk to each other on the Switch. So Nintendo's version of that was, okay, let's make Discord/Teams for the Switch. And it looks abysmal. If you look, essentially it'll give you your game, and then it'll give you all the different people that are speaking to you in game chat, almost as if it was sharing a screen on Teams or on Discord. It basically mirrors Discord more often than not. It gives you the ability to plug in a camera and have your camera up so people can see, what you're doing when you're talking to them and all that sort of stuff. And it genuinely, it looks so bad. The quality of the camera is rough. You can present your gameplay and it shows you on the showcase presenting the gameplay, and it looks so choppy. It looks so bad. I don't know how they got that through QC, and they were just like, do you know what? Yeah, we'll put this on the trail. We'll show everyone in the world how bad this looks. I don't know how they did it. They added a C button to the controller. Now, being a diehard GameCube fan, I have the GameCube upstairs right now. C buttons should only come in sticks. They should not be in buttons. I mean, N64, you had a good time, but the GameCube mastered the C stick. We didn't need to go back. We don't need to go back to a C button. C button for chat? What is that? Come on. But yeah, essentially they've made a chat button. So you press the button, you go into the chat settings, and of course you have to pay for the Nintendo Switch Online to have a party chat. Now, you don't need to do that on other consoles. I will point that out. You need to pay to play with other people on other consoles, but you don't need to pay to speak to other people on the consoles. I understand why they're going a bit further with it because of the camera peripheral, which they're charging so much money for. I did see a Piranha Plant camera from a third-party thing, and it looks so fun. It kind of looks a bit like this. So I've got like the Lego Piranha Plant. It kind of looks like this, but then inside the mouth is a camera, and it looks really cool. So I'll put it up on screen, but it genuinely, have a look. It looks really fun. The next thing I want to talk about, aside from the awful game chat, is the paid tour of the machine. PlayStation got Astro Bot. It was a platformer, a fully functioning platformer that explained the different pieces of the machine and made it a fun gameplay experience alongside some great music and stuff like that. Nintendo's answer to that was to basically make PlayStation Home, where you can walk around the console and interact with signs that don't do anything. There is no gameplay. You can talk to people and read signs, and they want you to pay for that experience. Now, I'm going to get the editing version of me to find out if that price is listed anywhere, but they want you to pay for a tour that isn't interactive, really, to find out more about how the Switch works. Explain that. Please make that make sense to me. I don't understand why they should have made it free. If they made it free, I would have jumped in and had a little look. I wouldn't have done anything with it, but I would have jumped in for $5, had a little look around, be like, right, okay, there's nothing here later. I'm not paying money for that. Why would you want to pay money for that? Would anyone? I don't. Maybe if they sell a physical version, it might turn into like a collector's item. Maybe that's the secret. I don't know. Make it make sense to me. Believe it or not, that's genuinely over an hour's worth of footage. That's genuinely the only bad things I could think of. In the actual presentation itself, that's the only things that I thought were a bit naff. You know, there's some indie games in there that I might not agree with. There might have been some of the first party games I might not want necessarily. But I think you like what you like, much of a muchness. Do you, no bother whatsoever. You crack on. If you like it, great. And like I say, it's only good news for Switch fans. They're getting more things. They're getting more stuff to play. They're getting more access to third-party stuff sooner. They're getting more first-party titles. They're getting an extremely strong machine if what is advertised is what it does. Extremely strong machine. We're going to have to wait for the likes of Digital Foundry to know if that's like actually what it does or not. But it's impressive. It's an impressive machine if what they're advertising is true. The two things that we were after on the showcase, really, aside from the games and all that sort of stuff, was when it was going to release and what the price was going to be. We got the release date of June the 5th. Perfectly fine. Why didn't they mention the price? Well, if you notice, at the end of the showcase, they go, okay, more information's on the website. So we watched the whole hour-long presentation and not once did they tell us how much anything costs. That's the games, the GameCube controller they announced, the actual Switch itself. They never ever gave us a price for it. They just pointed us towards the website. On the website, as people will know now, it came back as $450. That's how much the hardware price is going to be, which is north of even the PlayStation 5, if you think about the disk drive-less version, more expensive than a PS5. A lot of people just took the price and ran with it. Like I said before, in terms of what they're actually offering, 1080p, 120 frames, you can't get that on the PlayStation. I'm afraid you can't. There might be some people desperately fighting for it, but you can't get that on the PlayStation. So that's the main reason why people are kicking off. They're saying, no, well, it's too expensive. And I agree, but what you're getting is a significant upgrade compared to the other things on the market currently, if it does as advertised, which PlayStation advertise themselves doing this, Xbox Series X advertise themselves as doing this, and they don't. So if it's the same situation with the Switch 2, I think fair enough. Have a complaint. But I think people are jumping to conclusions far too fast and complaining far too much. And especially with the tariff stuff in America, I don't envy you, if I'm being honest. I think just give it some time and wait to see what happens in that respect. Right, let's get on to the games, because the games are another thing that is a thorn in people's side, and they're mentioning again the price. The games are a bit weird, because the physical games aren't physical games. So if you buy the digital games, you're looking at $80 for one of the new ones. That's significantly higher. A lot of games are like $60, especially the Switch games, like $60. You're looking at a $20 increase for these new games. If you're looking at normal, you buy like a PS5, new PS5 game, $70, $80 for this, for Mario Kart. I can't personally justify that. Other people can't personally justify that. I understand why they can't. It's very expensive, especially for Switch games. You're thinking you're buying this for your son, your daughter. They're not just for you. There's kids going to be asking for this as well, and that's a significant price increase for essentially the same sort of experience. If you buy Mario Kart, it's not going to be that radical a change to warrant that much money, in my opinion. But that's not even it. It's for the physical copy, it's $90. So that's even more. And then when you look at what the physical copy actually is, it's a game key card, not the game. So you don't own the game. If you have that, you can't play that game offline, nothing. What it is it's a token that allows you to download the game, so you need an internet connection the first time, no matter what. So if they take that offline at any point, you can't play that game. There'll be some sort of authentication to it. You can't play that game. So you can't then resell it either. It's a DRM measure, for sure. DRM being digital rights management, for people that don't follow this sort of stuff as closely as I do. But essentially, it's to stop you from pirating the game. It's to stop you from sharing the game. It's to stop you from reselling the game. And we're already seeing, we had this with the original Xbox when it got Xbox One, when it got announced, and they were trying to crack down on DRM in the same sort of way. This is basically the same thing, but we told them no back then, and it seems odd that they're not going to get told no this time. So just want to think about, it lets you share the game for a couple of weeks with a friend, and you can share stuff locally in your house. Great. Very pro-consumer. But this whole game keycard thing and the prices that go along with the games are all wrong. And it's so high, and I genuinely believe that this is a very slippery slope, because increasing the price of games just for you, GTA 6 is sat over there and he's like, oh yeah, Rockstar. What can Rockstar do who like monetization, who have the biggest game on the planet coming up soon? What can we do? $100? And that'll be it. Once GTA drops at $100, EA will follow, and then everyone will be starting to go, oh, well, $80 isn't that bad. You know, GTA 6 was $100. EA's FC 25-6, that was $100. $80 for the new Mario Kart doesn't seem that bad. And that's how the gaming industry has done everything in the past. They go too far, then they rein it in. So the reining it in to something slightly worse than the worst isn't as bad. And we're going to see that here. I'll predict it now. We're going to see that here. You watch. There's also a lot of the games announced, first party and third party, were remasters or boosted versions. And they were very, very vague about what was and wasn't boosted, how much you'd have to pay. They still, to this day, have not this is Saturday, they still have not announced how much the boosts of each version are going to cost. They have said that certain games will be included in Nintendo Switch Online, which is Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, the only ones I know of that have been officially announced as you will get this upgrade for free if you pay this. They've already said there's a discount on people who already own the original games. Great. But they haven't said how much the upgrades are going to be. So I'm not a massive fan of these kind of iterative remasters like The Last of Us to The Last of Us Part 1, stuff like that. Well, we've put the frame rate up a little bit and we have provided you with a bit more of a graphical fidelity. 70 quid, please. I don't agree with that at all, and I don't think there's many people that do. There's some people who've never picked that sort of game up before and then will be like, right, okay, I'll do that. Yeah, no bother. So that's just, I'm not a massive fan of the remaster type stuff and the boosted versions and all that. Right, so getting to the point of the video in general, why do I feel like it's negatively impacting the industry, or why do I feel like it's going to negatively impact the industry? Well, the reason for this is, think about what Nintendo did up front. They had all of the trailers, they had all of the tech specs. This is all the good stuff. And this is what you'd expect, right? They're not going to come out and go, oh, by the way, well, they did come out and say, oh, by the way, our voice chat's awful. But they sold it as if it was good. But the thing is that they went, right, this is all the good stuff. Here's all the good things, you know? And then they went, all right, okay, so anything that we dub bad news, it's on the website. That was by design. So what they've done is, and this is where I've sort of harkened back to the PS3 days with the bullshot trailers, if you remember those, where they put things and said it was in-engine or they said it was gameplay, and it wasn't. It was like a pre-rendered cutscene that looked like gameplay to try and sell you on it. Or think Watch Dogs, where they had the graphical settings turned all the way up and everything looked perfect and great, and then they brought it all the way back down for the game release, but those files for the original were still on there if you looked at the PC version. Stuff like that, where they're intentionally manipulating the narrative to try and sell you on things. And I get it. Every company does this. Nintendo aren't special. They aren't particularly evil. Every company does this. But what you've got to think is, what do people see on social media? What do people who aren't hardcore gamers, aren't industry followers, what do they see? So I spoke to a guy at work, right? He knew about the Switch. He knew about the games. He knew about all the different features. He knew about how good it was going to be. All these different games, all these new things coming out. He didn't know the price. He didn't know that the upgrades were locked behind Nintendo Switch Online. He didn't know the voice chat was behind Nintendo Switch Online. He'd seen bits and pieces of that trailer. He'd seen people talking about bits and pieces of that trailer, but he didn't have the full picture because Nintendo didn't give him it. And I think that's very important to note, is they are intentionally obfuscating the story around the Switch because they wanted that hour-long presentation to be nothing but positive. And they knew, and that's exactly why they left it out, they knew that talking about how much it cost on the stream would cause an outrage on the stream, and they didn't want that. They didn't want anyone off of Twitter, unfortunately. They didn't want anyone who wasn't terminally online to see the price. They wanted people to find out the price when they got there and go, oh well, I'll pay it. Same with the games. They didn't mention the game prices. They didn't mention the upgrade prices. They still haven't mentioned the upgrade prices. And they're intentionally trying to force people to think, oh, right, I'm just going to get this then. And then when they get there and realize the price, like, oh, I'm already invested. I wanted to buy it. Oh, maybe it's only 100 extra than what I thought it was going to be. Maybe I should just buy it. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to obfuscate each bit of their narrative to try and sell you that Switch 2. I don't think that there's anything wrong with the price necessarily. I think if it does offer what it says it offers, fine. You want an expensive machine? Fine. But be transparent and tell people on the trailer, on the whole showcase, here's a release date, here's the price. Don't make me go to a website to find out more information. It's the exact same as with the Duskbloods, where I was hyped for it, and then I went to the website, and then it turned out it was PvPvE. and immediately hype's gone. I'm not interested. I don't want that game anymore because it doesn't fit my taste as a gamer, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I would rather have known that in the trailer up front rather than finding it out on a website. And that's what this whole thing is about. That's what this whole video has been about. I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it so that you just see the good stuff and the casual audience only sees the good stuff. They don't see any of the bad stuff. They have to be like online all the time, see the discourse, all that sort of stuff. That's what they don't want. They don't want the casual gamer to see the discourse. So what they're doing is they're going, all right, okay, well, we'll make this all online here, and then they'll never see it. They'll find out way too late when little Timmy's asking for his Switch 2 for Christmas. You'll find out then that the Switch 2 is $450. That's what they're relying on, and I don't know why. Just be the confidence in that showcase. You should have confidently said the price and then dealt with the backlash. But instead, they've tried to hide the backlash and then made it all online. So everything they've done since, if you look at the chat, in every stream since, it just says lower the price, lower the price, lower the price, lower the price. And for me, like I say, you can kind of justify the price, and there'll be enough Nintendo people out there who will justify the price. And yes, it is a net negative that people are going to pay that, and that prices potentially will go up for games. But I hate how insidious it was to leave half of the information, the key information out of that hour-long presentation, just so they could try and avoid negative publicity. And it shows massively in the backlash they've had since that they should have had that front and center and addressed it properly. And instead, you've got people like me making videos on it, and no one seems to be addressing it. Everyone's going, oh, the price is too high. No one's addressing the fact that they've essentially lied by omission. That's essentially what they've done, is they've left it out intentionally to try and trick you into something, and you just have to sort of sit there and accept that. No one's calling them out on that. Everyone's just calling, oh, the price is high. What about what they actually did to hide the price from you in the first place? And I think that's the key thing around the whole Discord that people are missing. And that's my thoughts on the Switch 2 reveal presentation. I hope you had a good time. I hope you got on with some of my points. I hope you learned some new stuff, a new perspective on things. Maybe don't run in and hate things straight away, but also don't just sort of love everything that comes out of a certain company. Try and go in with an open mind and come to your own conclusions. And definitely watch out for businesses being shady. I think that's the key message today is, yeah, businesses can and do be shady, unfortunately. If you like the video, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, all that lovely good stuff to keep me in the algorithm. If you like videos like this, I've started making more videos like this. I'm doing lists, I'm doing reviews based around how much time it takes to finish a game and stuff like that. So there's plenty of content out there. You know, I've got deep dives as well. Have a little look around. I've got well over 40 videos now, which, you know, I'm quite proud of. So yeah, that'll do for today. And look after each other, please. I'll catch you soon. Bye-bye.